Hey there, hi there, ho there, Waffle fam. This is Sage of Sorcery and
Jesse, nerd in real life.
welcome to episode 11 of the Waffle Press.
Yay!
We are really excited to be with you tonight for the second time.
Yes, this is taping dose.
Yeah, this is not the second time that I've taped an episode of the Waffle Press twice. Technology is wonderful and a beautiful thing, and we are so
evil.
Yes, we're so grateful, and yet there is an evil consciousness, some kind of matrix thing behind it. But we are here with you, and we're excited to be here with you tonight, and we have tons of stuff to talk about. So, Jess, why don't we just jump right into what works and what irks?
Yes, I know you wanted to do a special shout-out to Chris's song. Was it the AI game?
I do. It was at the Acquisitions Incorporated game, which Strix was at. So it is Waffle Fam material.
It is Waffle Fam adjacent, yes.
Yeah. So the first thing that I loved about that was that rather than summoning Strix through her infernal contract, Omen Drawn is able to just go up and knock on the door. And of course, because it's Strix, he goes up and says, "Hey, Strix," and she freaks out and screams, right?
Which I will say, Omen is not one to follow the rules of others. And Strix was really upset about the contract.
Yeah.
The fact that like you said, he didn't use the contract and he came to her home and he asked her was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not only that, but Omen's also extremely manipulative, right? So, I mean, he knows he's going to push and he's going to wheedle and he's going to do whatever he has to. And
he's a dealer, right?
He is a dealer. Yeah, he's a total deal. He's a street deal. He's a hustler. I mean, all these things, right? Now, I will say that does disqualify him from an Evelyn crush. So, I guess we need to keep our eyes on that. I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Yes, but anyway, Jesse and I, we're going to keep our eyes on that. We're going to make sure nothing comes of that because because the boy doesn't deserve her. Okay, not that anyone.
No.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, anyway, I wanted to do a special shout out because in that stream that Strix was a part of, Chris Perkins did this whole like beatnik hippie impromptu.
You had everyone snapping. It was so great. It was so great.
What I loved, I mean, it was so creative. He's like abracadabra, pocus, hocus, or whatever. And then he starts it and he had all these verses. And what I loved about it was they panned out to the audience and showed their faces and they were just delighted. I mean, It's like anytime you can bring music in, I think that's fantastic. I've been a big advocate. I want to see Anna and Nate sing a duet.
Yes, please do it already.
And I've commented on the Waffle Press.
I have to bribe and or Dognap to make this a thing.
I have the perfect song too. If you've ever heard the music from Miss Saigon, the song "Sun and Moon" is so them. Although I don't think Nate would ever do a Broadway song. I think that would betray his rocker image.
I don't know though. I think he could surprise you.
I don't know, but I told Anna, I was like, look, if he won't sing it with you, girl, I will show up to PAX and I will do that song with you. So
I don't know. I think if you gave him a little nudge, you could get like his inner theater kid to come out and play. I bet you. I bet you.
Well, maybe that's something that we can slowly begin pushing, right? So that'll be an interesting spirit. But I loved it. I mean, it was great. I love any time that we bring in music and that added element, and the audience got to participate. So hat goes off to Chris Perkins.
Really well done. It reminds me of, did you ever watch the one with Jerry Holkins as Omen? And then I think Cthulhu Straub was a guest, and he and actual Chris, like real life Chris Straub, rapped together at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
So good. So good.
Cool. Well, and did you see the AI? I know this is Waffle Press, but we're talking AI. It's important.
We're diverging.
We are. All right. So please follow us down the rabbit hole for the next few minutes. So did you see, Jesse, the AI where Jerry Holkins did a tribute to Chris at the end of the stream? And then
I remember it, but I don't remember the finite details.
It was a poem or a rap poem like that he did about how
I think that was the one. Is that the one that I'm talking about?
Yeah, Chris wasn't rapping with him, but Jerry did the tribute. And I got to tell you, I was like, that was beautiful,
Right. It's like, so good. It's so good.
Chris, he gets a lot of love. Everybody loves Chris, right? He's such a talented dungeon master, and he's been in D&D since he was a kid, like me, since he was a kid, except he's much older. So that thing for which we love him.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. And so to have Jerry kind of just recognize on the stage, you know, hey, I love Chris. You know, I appreciate.
And
I
like
thought it was great.
as his friend and someone with, because like you said, a lot of people love Chris, but
Yeah.
someone that has a personal one-to-one true friendship with him, to get up there on that stage and say that, it was, as a fan, it was really touching. I love anytime, like I think Anna has said it, where the team just, their whole goal is to, it's something surprising to like Chris Perkins.
Yeah, I agree.
Constantly a two-way street of, it's not just the GM giving everything to the players, it's the players wanting to give back and make sure that his experience is equally enjoyable as theirs. I love that give and take.
I love that too. And you remember that was ChairCon, right? Or not ChairCon, the chair battle.
Yes.
That was the chair battle, right? That was them totally meditating the fact that they were going to surprise Chris while Diath was away. But I'm going to need a live.
I'm going to need a live play-by-play of that at a PAX at some point.
I agree. Real bad. I know. Well, that's the kind of thing that we want to ask, right? We want to ask them at some point the behind the scenes. Like, how did you guys text each other and be like, let's destroy the furniture? I mean, what did that look like?
Yeah, it's gone. Let's ruin everything good before anyone else does.
Yeah, before Daddy Diath comes back and the crazy kids are, you know, poor Diath. Now he's got 5, 6 kids.
So many more mouths to feed. The poor man.
Yeah, the poor man. The poor rogue. The poor rogue who has more.
I know.
But I thought it was wonderful. And I tell you what I loved.
It really was.
Chris had more verses written to that. He was launching into one when Holly goes, in character, I don't have any money. And then the lady goes, what? And then they roll for initiative. It was so awesome and such great DMing when Chris stopped his song at a natural moment and said, like, this is the time to roll for initiative. They have no money and they're in a secret bank. Kill them. You know? Yeah.
I want to know what was, I'm sorry, again, we're continuing to diverge down the AI path. I don't care. I want to know what possessed Omen Drawn to take Strix of all people to a bank.
In what
world would he think that she had money besides, like, crackers and bird feathers? Like,
I mean, or Snickety Snooks, or who knows, whatever she's got.
Right? Look, those are not currency, my friend. Maybe they are in their world, but not in the actual world.
Yeah,
What made you go, this is a brilliant idea that I should follow through with?
Yeah, and you know, usually Viari is the one who plans the sneaky deal. But Jim totally rejected the idea. He wanted Jim to be the hunchback hag again. He was having none of it.
He just wanted, here's the thing though, he wanted Jim to not be prettier than he was. That's how I read it, was that he could not stand being upstaged by new and improved Jim Dark Magic.
Oh, and was Jim Dark Magic,
by the way,
was his cosplay not incredible?
So good.
It looked amazing. And, you know, I don't know how that happened, but I do know stepping out onto the stage with Holly Conrad's cosplay, which has been featured on, like, the Sci-Fi Channel programs, right? Stepping out, I imagine, and I love the whole, like, rivalry between Jim and Strix. Do you like it, or is it just me?
Oh my! It's like the brother that's not drunk that she doesn't have.
Yeah.
Because like even some of that is starting to play off of, and it started a little bit earlier with her and Paulton.
Yeah.
Where she does not know how to handle someone that either knows more elite or more skilled magic, or more magic than she does.
Well, and you know, I'm glad you brought that up because it was on one of my talking points that Strix, and that's props to Holly that she plays that so well. Because if you are an insecure person and somebody threatens your domain, right, or your area of expertise, it's a blow to your ego. Like I remember when I was in choir, I was the choir star, right? That I was the tenor. Not a lot of guys sing, so it's not like I had stiff competition, right? And then we had some guy who was like in a recording gospel group come and join our choir. Now
you were like, no.
I was like, this is my kingdom. Somebody gonna get cut. Right? But when you're young,
especially with someone like Strix who does not think that she has much to give the group to begin with, and doesn't think that she is a character of value just on her own, to have someone take that away from her has got to be a devastating blow.
Well, and that's what happened with the Xanathar, right? When Paulton cast dispel magic. And she freaked out because she can't cast dispel magic. And you know, I'm sorry, but if you're going to be like a real mage's mage, you need to be able to break someone's enchantments, you know?
Yeah.
Someone's enchantment. So, you know, that's a little nod to Sandal, Dragon Age fans.
Oh, Sandal, my heart just broke in like 4 pieces. I'm sorry.
I know. You know what? We need to talk about Sandal, but you know what, Jesse? You know what I'm going to say?
What?
That's another stream. So anyway, I agree with you that that's fun. It's interesting. Now, do you remember the part in Barovia, or right after Barovia, or somewhere around there, when Paulton started taking Strix's spells and learning them? And she did not have. I think he took gaseous form, or he flew, or I don't know what he did.
I know flying is one of them. Did he have Dimension Door before then?
Did he? I don't know. I don't remember that part. He did a lot of that previously, but you know, again, it's this whole insecurity piece on Strix's behalf, right?
Yeah.
And my question is, do you think Nate regretted it? And do you think when Nate took Strix's spells that it was Holly that was upset or Strix that was upset? Like, do you think it irritated Holly?
Coming from purely as like from an outside perspective, obviously, my guess would be it's a combination of the two.
I would agree. Yeah,
I think there is a lot of, and I think Holly's pretty clearly said that there's a lot of her own anxiety and insecurity built into Strix.
Yeah, Strix is her anxiety.
Yeah, that's basically the manifestation of, you know, all of her anxiety. I would not be surprised if there is a portion of Holly in there mixed among the Strix.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I'm trying to see if I can find Paulton's 10th level sheet, because it's like he's gotten to the point with being a bard where he can pull spells from basically anywhere.
Yeah.
And half the time he doesn't even know what he has, which was hilarious with the whole looking up on the tiny scroll going, "Oh, I have that."
Yeah. Well, you know, Nate's
done that in a D&D game.
Nate is getting better at playing his character, though. I mean, and I mean, not role playing. I mean, technically, he's getting better at playing his character.
Yes.
Because do you remember when he tweeted out a little while ago that he'd been using the expertise feat wrong, or the ability? I don't know how that works in 5th edition, but and then he was DMing for the first time on his tour bus, and which, by the way, I was so proud of him for doing that.
That was his second time, but yes. I'm very proud.
Yes. But you know what? That's what a good D&D missionary does, right? You get out there and you draw in as many people as you can. And as you and I have frequently discussed so many times before, D&D is so good for people. I mean, it builds community. And we talked about this on our last stream, so we don't have to get into it again. But I'm really proud of him for doing that. And I admire him for doing that. I think he gets props.
Yes, he's come a long way. I'm looking at his spell sheet, assuming that this is all up to date. So he has Fairy Fire, Dissonant Whispers, Thunder Wave, which we haven't seen him use in ages, and I'm slightly sad about that.
Yeah.
Crown of Madness, Invisibility, which is now stronger. Suggestion, Dispel Magic, Evil Eye, which is Vistani specifically, I think. The Tiny Hut, the Waffle Hut. Counterspell, which I think might be a Strix or stronger than a Strix. Bestow Curse, there we go, Greater Invisibility, Dimension Door, Locate Creature, Banishment, Animate Objects, Mislead, and Mass Suggestion.
Yeah, boy, he sounds pretty powerful when you read off all of his spells like that.
I know, and I mean, just because you can't see it, but what's interesting on his sheet that I just discovered is there is a deity listed on his sheet.
Are you serious? Is it Perkins?
It just says Lords of the Blank. Although if it's Lords of the Dance, I'm going to laugh my ass off. Because isn't that not a Bolton/Nate thing? Like, that would be great.
Okay, you said Lords of the... See, you know, this is what that does to me. My D&D encyclopedic knowledge is going... Like, I've got 100 reference books. The first thing that popped into my head was Lords of Madness, which is like, those are the Far Realm, like the great old ones, like Cthulhu and stuff like that.
Which again would not be surprising, But the way that this is located, I don't know if I can download it or not.
Well, Paulton is chaotic neutral, and so that would fit.
Yeah.
But he has a deity listed on there, Lords of Chaos.
Which is shocking.
Yeah, it is shocking.
Considering the source,
Oh, poor Evelyn. The one thing that's for sure is it's not Lathander.
Oh, hell no. Yeah. Poor baby girl. Poor baby girl.
Sorry, Evelyn. It's not Lathander. It's listed on his character sheet. Okay, well, let's jump into some more stuff that works and irks. What else is something that you thought really worked in this episode?
Well, okay, let's do a quick refresher because we definitely diverged here.
Okay, yeah.
So we are talking about episode 108 of season 4, the Kozin Effect, which is the second episode so far in the what I'm assuming is going to be a 3-episode arc with the guest star Sam Sykes playing Kozin.
It's turned into a 3-episode.
Yes. Playing Kozin. I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah. Zorlarin.
Yeah, I would not have gotten that right.
Yeah, we talked about the Zorlarin on the last stream.
So we opened it up where Evelyn's coming back into the house. We're all basically sort of kind of going into the world's slowest mission impossible to kidnap a fish.
Yeah, to kidnap a fish. Yeah.
The fish plot has been a real challenge for me to get on board with and be enthusiastic about.
Yeah.
Because
which is not to say that we here at the Waffle Press do not endorse marine life, because we do.
Go support your local,
yeah, please.
Rehabilitation, what have you.
Yeah, go hug a whale, something. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, actually, maybe don't do that. Now I'm afraid there's going to be some young person. There's going to be on the news at 11. Local D&D encourages children to play.
Oh God, no.
So please don't hug a whale without your parents' permission, kids.
Donate with your parents' permission and don't use their credit card illegally. The end.
Yes, yeah, and don't do drugs. Don't do drugs. Anyway. Okay, sorry.
This is what happens when we tape late at night, guys.
Yeah, we are way off the beaten path. But anyway, getting back to what works and what irks. So we're back in the Waffle in the beginning, the Waffle House at the beginning, and we have the world's slowest Mission Impossible. And speaking of things,
why?
Yeah.
As a D&D baby, is there some delightful, insightful, powerful lore about this silly fish?
Yeah.
That I don't understand. Because I'm going,
remember we
so much
previously that we don't think the fish is a fish, remember?
It better not be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well,
I'm very upset if it is just a fish.
When we were streaming, the book hadn't come out. The Dragon's Hoard, or whatever it's called, had not come out yet. And so I'm sure everybody by now has cheated and has learned if a fish is a fish. But so speaking of those things, I loved that moment when after that, because you're right. I mean, the whole fish planning Mission Impossible thing left me cold. But then we got that hint of a little piece of the neighborhood, right?
Yes. Oh,
and
so good.
That just I loved that all of a sudden they're knocking on a neighbor's door and they're like, hey, can you watch our kids? And okay, now I have a question for you, Jess. If you were the neighbor, okay, and the Waffle crew moves into your neighborhood and they knock on the door.
Can you imagine what that moving day was like?
How many explosions have come out of their house and they knock on your door, Jess? What do you do?
I'm of two minds about it, because part of me is like, oh, but I really like little kids. They all seem really cute. And the other part of me is going, these are the worst neighbors in the HOA we've ever had.
Yeah.
They're so horrible.
They did. But I'll tell you what I loved about that moment is, I loved a lot. We can talk about the kids in a second, but I loved it because we got a little chunk of their world, as small as it is, in that ward. They're in the Skull Ward of Waterdeep, right?
They're in the North World on
the North Ward, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they got this little chunk of the neighborhood revealed. And I would not be surprised if somewhere down the line, when somebody produces yet a 7th edition D&D book of Waterdeep, there's not mention of the Waffle House in that manual. And also this druid is there.
This image diagram, something or another, kind of like a Find Waldo, apparently, of the yawning portal coming out.
Oh.
And the entire Waffle crew is sitting behind a table at the yawning portal. Because I don't know if you noticed in the last game where Anna's like, we're canon, y'all. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. No,
so they are officially canon now.
So I don't know if Chris had some of the neighbors already planned out, or if he pulled that druid follow right out of his butt. Like, right, just was like, it's this elf lady and she's a druid. I mean, I'm sure he plans, but he's the one who's always saying, don't over plan. He doesn't do that
But
anymore.
see, here's my thing. He says that, but I'm going, this is Chris Perkins.
Yeah.
I'm betting you he had a couple of, let's just say, chosen cards of if this should occur or if I should need a NPC from town, here's my top picks for who I'm going to pull from.
Yeah.
I don't think it was purely random, and I don't think it was purely planned.
Well, I do that. I mean, whenever, well, you're going to find out that I do that, Jess.
Dun,
but,
dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, Jesse and I, when we start this live stream D&D show that we're going to be working on, which by the way, we are going to announce on Monday, people.
Yay!
When we do that, I plan the NPCs so that I know and have names and some professions, and I'll even put one like defining feature, like, I don't know, she burps a lot, or something like that.
She has a crooked nose, yeah.
Yeah, she has a crooked nose, or she's constantly clicking her teeth, or she's haughty or obnoxious, or she inadvertently insults people, or he's strong, or he's lazy, or he has an eye that's going sideways while you're talking to him, or whatever. I plan like that because I want the world to come alive.
Well, and you need those sort of character tags and character hooks for yourself as a DM, I would imagine, to be able to keep everybody straight. One of the things that I love the best about the whole little like neighborhood vignette scene was so often in D&D, because you can, and because the medium lends itself to it, you're going off and you're doing big adventures. You're fighting the dragon, saving the princess, stopping the zombies, whatever it is, something big. And to have something at such like micro, macro, I always confuse those two, at such a small, detailed level as them meeting their neighbors and connecting their neighbors to be, it's something that I feel like doesn't come up enough in fantasy. Not that like obviously you want a whole entire campaign about let's go meet the neighbors. I mean, unless you want to do a Mr. Rogers D&D, which I'm all about.
Okay, but do you remember when we recorded the first time, Jess, that we said we are all down for a neighborhood block party episode?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me, because we need, I don't care if it's like the Christmas episode, like Doctor Who or what.
Yeah.
But we need a block party episode, just because I feel like the stuff on the smaller scale that makes your world so much richer sometimes gets forgotten or put aside in favor of the bigger, more bombastic stuff. So to see Chris take something like the Waffle Crew and focus on something small, because like he said, this whole season is supposed to be about family, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we've been dealing with all these big outside things that I'm really hoping that little nugget is like the beginning of sort of like drawing in and going more into the deeper character stuff.
Which is why I've been saying that we need a Grandfather Turtle episode, right?
Which is surprising, because I did not think you were so hot on that first episode, and I adored it like to the back teeth.
Yeah,
I thought it was fabulous.
It's funny you should mention that, because there were moments in that episode where I felt like it was clumsy, or it was maudlin, or it wasn't working. First of all, he did a great job with the turtle voice, like this old
Mark
time.
is so good.
I could see it all in my head.
It was like immediate feels as soon as he started. It was like, my heart is now breaking.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. He was like, "Oh, and I will help me with the soup." I was like, "I want to help him with the soup."
Oh, he wants some tea. I will make you tea.
Yes, yeah. So great voice acting that episode, but I want to see more of that. I want to see more of those human moments, right? Not human as in D&D race human.
Human isn't emotional. I completely
emotional. Yeah, I feel like
I would love to see, since you brought up Grandfather Turtle, I would love to see someone of that type of like community figurehead in Skull Alley.
Yes.
Someone that's been there through generations or wars and has seen the town torn down and rebuilt and torn down. I think that would be really fascinating to touch on.
Well, I do too. And I have to tell you, I think that it's terribly important to have those. When I was writing my novel, it was difficult for me to remember to include like food how could you write a whole novel and nobody ever eats anything, right? But I was like,
it's like that thing about watching a movie and no one ever goes to the bathroom.
yes.
Like ever.
Exactly. Yeah. No, nobody ever goes to the bathroom. And if a lady goes to the bathroom, she's never actually going to the bathroom. There's a scene in there, right? I mean, it's
or she's like applying makeup. She's not actually using the facilities. Yeah. She's touching up her hair, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the only reason she's going into the bathroom is to catfight with someone else, right? I mean,
exactly. Exactly.
So ridiculousness. But we love these moments. And so I want another Grandfather Turtle episode. They need time to reflect in role play. That's the difference between a stream D&D show, which we're going to find out really soon, I'm sure, and the difference between a tabletop D&D game. And it's also, I honestly think it's also a difference between male and female gamers too, which I know we're not supposed to talk about, but Jesse and I don't care.
We're talking about it today.
We're going to talk about it. You know, I remember that one of my friends who was on World of Warcraft, she was a female DM, and she told me she loves DMing. And I said, so tell me about your combat to role play ratio. And I already kind of suspected, you know, and I know nobody wants to hear a stereotype because, you know, Evelyn and Holly love them some combat, right?
Right.
But she told me that they rarely had combat, if ever. And I kind of expected that because a lot of the times women gamers are more intuitive about that, you know? Like, I don't know. I think maybe sometimes we as men, we're afraid to get into the role play. I don't know. You tell me what you think. Oh, yeah.
Well, like, I'm thinking of it as a writer myself. This is just going to be the writer propping up stream. I'm in a wheelchair, so I don't have the, like, kinetic memory of ever really being in a fight. I've probably thrown 2 punches in my entire life, and both of them were under the age of 12. And we're a family member, so we're insulting me. Yeah. I don't have, like, the actual physical memory of what it's like to fight. So for me, I do really shy away from combat because I either need to find videos where I can, like, mimic that combat and then write about what I see, or I've actually thought I know a local couple in the area that has their own martial arts program and runs their own school and everything, and asking them, like, can you kind of block out a fight for me and then allow me to record it? Because I will never understand what it's like to throw a specific style of kick. Yeah. Just because I couldn't even practice it if I wanted to. And have it come remotely close to the real thing. So yeah, I know for me, and I know my situation is probably a little bit different than the average female DMs. Yeah. Where, I'm very uncertain writing combat. It's a very, I wouldn't say it's uncomfortable, but it's definitely more challenging because I have nothing to base it off of.
Yeah, so that's interesting that, you know, there is a difference sometimes in predilections of gaming style, right? Yeah. Between genders, you know? So I don't know. I find that to be interesting. I did. So, and maybe that's, you know, that's a good question for the whole Waffle crew. I mean, I wonder, do Jared and Nate lean more towards combat? Because I've heard Jared talk about his D&D childhood, and I'm pretty sure they were knocking down doors and stabbing monsters.
Which,
you know?
I mean, if you think about the era, because we're all roughly in the same age block, you know, give or take a few years either way.
Well, you and I are, yeah.
Well, but I mean, even with the Waffle crew, because I'm only like a year or two older than Anna. I'm actually older than Anna's husband, which is super weird for me anyways. But that was kind of the era of 80s and 90s D&D, wasn't it? Yeah. It wasn't really heavy role play at that point.
Yeah.
It was primarily combat.
But that's my question, Jess. Was it? Were women DM players developing it already? You know what I mean? So that's something I'm curious about. And maybe that's a good question for the Misclicks players, right? I mean, they didn't all start playing D&D at the table. I mean, a lot of them did, but, you know. Right. But that'd be an interesting question and something interesting to talk about. But I do love that role play. We need another episode of them reflecting and just talking. What came out of that Turtle episode when Diath and Evelyn went off and they were talking and Diath told her not to give up on Paulton. And I was like, are you sure about that? Because, you know, like
I don't know. Because I'm really gonna have to go back and watch the episode. But
I think we both should. Yeah.
I feel we should totally do a watch and then commentary.
We should.
I feel like Paulton's reply might have been slightly misinterpreted. I think that he's telling her to stay away from him because he doesn't think that he's good enough for her.
Oh yeah, definitely. He thought he was bad news and she didn't deserve, but
Not that he doesn't have feelings for her.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't, oh, Paulton doesn't love her like that. I'm like, no, guys, he does. That's the problem. He just doesn't think he's good enough for her.
But does he? You want Paulton to love her. You are as invested in this ship as I am. We want Paulton to love her, but that may not be.
Though. If he actually would straight up say, I don't love you that way,
yeah,
I would accept it. The reason why I fight for it is because I share that similarity of I have similar self-esteem issues.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't think that I'm good enough for someone, I would rather see them. I wouldn't want someone to pine over me. I would want them to go and be with someone that deserves them. And I think that's why I relate to it so hard. Because that's what keeps me holding on is if he would just straight up say, I don't have those feelings for you, it would suck, but I would let it go.
I don't know. Paulton. Nate has said that Paulton likes the dark, right? And I'm talking about nighttime, can't see the stars, okay? He has said that Nate likes the dark side, or Paulton likes the dark side, right? So I don't know that I would attribute those motives, but we're off the beaten path here. We could talk about that.
Again.
We need to have a ships episode of the Waffle Press where we talk ships.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting into that, I wanted to tell you, I loved that scene where the druid lady's like, and then Nate, who saved the episode as far as I'm concerned.
He stole that entire episode as far as I'm concerned.
And by the way,
one-liners.
Welcome these three children, and there's a waffle bear and a little wooden boy. Come on, everybody.
Watch our children for 1 hour or 7. Like, there's so many fantastic one-liners.
Yeah.
Most of what I have written down is literally from Nate. Let's see. It's been a dry season. The whole thing about not wanting to be there when they visit, but we'll leave the door open. Which is completely the nutshelling of like, yes, my relatives are coming over and I have to deal with this, but I'm also going to be gone like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And we have to have a sidebar for the delight that is Squiddly because he stole the show.
He did. And the thing is, I was so against the kids when we initially saw them introduced, and not because I didn't think that they were interesting or worthwhile.
But it felt like another diversion.
It did. And we've talked about this, that we don't feel like we're getting enough time with the crew. There's so much on the table for them to be talking about, developing. And
especially since the boat episode, and so much of that is remaining unresolved that I just want to slam my head against my keyboard repeatedly every Tuesday.
I know that whole, I would love, I want another continuation of the boat episode too, and the confrontation.
I was super disappointed that they did not stay on the boat longer, because I was hoping they were going to be on the boat for like a couple of episodes.
Me too. And I was thinking that's exactly what was going to happen. Well, and
damn it, I had fake planned for this.
I did too, and I feel like the boat would have been a great place for another Grandfather Turtle episode. Wouldn't it be cool if the chef was a turtle and he's like, come on in, like?
Well, because they would have been confined. They would have been in a confined space. You can only they're what are called in TV bottle episodes, where you only have basically like one set, and those are some of my favorite episodes because you can't just go jumping around from set to set to set. You have to deal with what's in the room.
Yeah,
and they haven't gotten to that point yet. And I feel like this is one of my things that irks about getting the house is now it's like now they never have to deal with that because now they all have their own separate spaces. They're not sharing quarters anymore. Now there is no confined space.
Yeah.
So it's like,
all right, we're gonna get our turtle episode. I don't know when it's coming, but
we may have to write it.
Chris may need to get a cold, which I'm not wishing on him. Don't get the wrong idea, but
there are no voodoo dolls anywhere in the street.
We here at the Waffle Press do not want witchcraft used to inhibit the DM or any of the crew. Please ask your parents before hexing any member.
I love that you totally just segued into that voice without a problem. That was well done.
So, we have to, I don't know, set a good example for our viewers. all 10 of
Try.
them. Okay, so that, but I do think that Nate saved the episode. Squiddly was so funny when he went up to Strix, like, what are you doing? Why?
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 Why? Right? And I'm laughing because for Nate to
Oh.
do that, he's clearly, and I know he's not a parent, but he's
No.
clearly been in that situation with a kid. Maybe we all have. Like, why?
Here's my thing though, because I grew up around kids. My mother was a babysitter in our home from the time I was at least 12.
Oh, wow.
Kids are like my norm. Not having kids is the weird bit. But he's got to have like friends that have kids,
Nephews,
or cousins, or something, because like I said, I know he's an only child, but he's got to have small kids somewhere in his life because it is so friggin' pitch perfect.
It was accurate. Okay, I've got 3 kids of my own. I'm going to tell you, it was accurate.
And I was laughing because not only was it funny, it was so pitch perfect. It was so on point that I was just dying.
Okay, but the best part of it was when Squiddly says to Strix, "Are you my mom?" And she's like, "Ah!" You know,
like it's just so good. And of course, now I'm going, well, we think his mother is in Strix, but then my brain is going, but that whole deal with the hags and there's doppelgangers. I will not be the least bit surprised if the doppelganger Strix ends up being Squiddly's mom.
See, and that is a distinct possibility in terms of cloning. Maybe not in terms of like burying the child, or I don't know, who knows. It would be interesting. Now, speaking of the Awful Crew, are you not so excited to hear that there are more clones out there?
I have mixed feelings on the Awful Crew, actually.
You do? Lay them on me. Tell me how you feel.
I actually found the Awful Crew episodes kind of boring.
You didn't like Edgelord DF?
Okay, I was not at all prepared for even alternative universe DF Evelyn.
Gotcha.
So that whole makeout scene was like, oh my god, I did not prepare for this. I did not prepare.
Wasn't he making out with the machine? I
mean, it was a construct, and there's clearly unresolved feelings there. So who are we to judge? But
I mean, and I'm not. For some people, maybe the machine. Who am I to judge what floats your boat? I don't know. I'm just saying. I thought that part was creepy, but I loved it. The one I missed the most, of course, is Evelyn of Shar. I wanted to see so much more of her than a pile of parts. And
I know that she's like your favorite part of the Awful Crew. So what jumps out for you with that character that just completely nabbed you?
Well, there's a couple things. One of the things that jumps out at me is when Anna was first really starting to get into understanding more about Lathander, she watched my Waffle Press episode where I talked about the Forgotten Realms gods.
Hold on, Matt. Yep. What's up, Juliana? What is it? Never mind if you're recording. Yes, I'm recording.
Hi, Juliana.
Okay, you can show me afterwards. Matt says hi. Actually, I'm going to pause this for a hot second so I can blow my nose. And we're go.
So what I love about the reason Evelyn O'Shara was my favorite is because when Anna first started really delving into understanding Lathander and the Forgotten Realms and how gods work, she watched one of my Waffle Press episodes and she left a comment. You saw that episode that she left the comment on. Awesome. I did a ton of research for her, and I gave her all this information. I talked to her about who Shar is and what she's all about. Shar is one of the oldest goddesses in the Forgotten Realms, and she has a rich history in both the source books for Forgotten Realms for D&D and also in the novels of D&D. Shar is all over the place, and her purposes are very convoluted. She wants to go back to the time before light and dark were separate. She wants to go back to a universe of twilight, right?
Okay.
And so she wants to destroy all of creation, in essence. Okay. And so I find Shar a really quite compelling deity. And I want to know, where does Evelyn of Shar come from? Clearly, Evelyn, clearly whoever created the construct named her Evelyn because it was a countermeasure to Evelyn, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I do not believe that there was a child named Evelyn who just happened to become a construct too. I do not believe this.
I would not be surprised if whomever, was it a dwarf that made her construct form?
Evelyn, yes. Evelyn's construct form.
Evelyn.
So my question is, did the hags craft Evelyn of Shar? Is that how that?
Or did they kidnap the dwarf that made the original Evelyn?
And whose soul did they put into the construct, right?
Yeah.
And so, and Anna has said, and that's the other reason, Anna is a writer, just like you and I are writers. Anna is a writer, and she is the one who told all of us.
Hold this thought, because you're a little jumpy. So I'm going to stop us here and start a fresh recording. And again, I will piece it all together, just because I want it to be absolutely crystal clear.
Okay.
After the kerfuffles we had yesterday.
Okay, let me go check my cord and make sure that it's plugged in right.
Okay, will do.